I'm gonna disregard the timer again. Hello. Hi, hi. How are you doing? Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Hope you're I'm a snake. Yeah, I'm a snake today. Hope you're doing good. Welcome. There was something weird, like really weird just now. So the moment I press start stream, also hi Chip, hi Jameson, and hi Natix. So that was really weird. Um, I pressed the start stream button, and then suddenly nothing can connect. I panicked. I was panicking in the background. I was like, what the hell is going on? I don't get it. I don't. It was weird. It was totally weird, but everything is fine now. At least I think I can see the chat. I can load my Twitch. I can open up Firebot. Everything is working. I hope. VTuber Plus is working too, I think. Oh, I didn't even enable VTuber Plus stuff. What the heck? Sorry, I'm a little bit blurry today, but also I want to stream. Also, yeah, welcome in everyone. Hope you are doing good. I am I am tired. uh, I was trying to job hunt for weeks now. I mean, I get it that the working time that I'm asking for is like very unorthodox. So I get that too. I get that. Also, I'm gonna get that die after. I didn't forget. It's very unorthodox, but it's like, I mean, I have to kind of work like that, I guess. So yeah, yeah. I'm trying, right? And Snake is trying. Well, Cobalt is trying, but I'm a snake, so. Does this mean I'm plural now? I don't know. I never thought about this, but I might be plural. Oh shit. And hi, Nick. Welcome. No hand tracking because the hand is absolutely jank for this model. Hope you're doing good, Nick Cobalt. Welcome. I love uncoupled. Coupled are amazing. So let me change this one real quick as well. I'm sorry about just now. Like everything was fumbling. It was kind of weird. Like OBS was jank, Twitch was jank, couldn't load anything. But hopefully everything works now. I'm looking. I can see chat, but the chat widget is gone somehow. Is the chat widget here? No, right? Maybe I need to refresh this one. Give me a second. Boop. Hopefully that works now. Ah, chat box is not showing up anything. Whoa. Snake friend spotted. Yeah. I'm a snake. I'm a friend to kobolds. And I like kobolds. Hope you're doing good, Nick. Let me just enable this, enable this, and then there's also these three. Yeah, I forgot about the Firebot stuff, but everything is fine. Don't worry about it. Disable, enable, boom, boom. Okay, that should be everything. I'm probably going to disable the Kobo mic, but no, as a snake, Kobo mic is fine. Yeah, Kobo mic is fine. Yeah. I feel weird. I haven't been doing art for months. I feel bad for like going back to art after so long. Oh yeah, let me change something here real quick. I just kind of wanna pull this one down a little bit. Boop. And then we need bloom. We need bloom. Oh my god, that's too much. Oh shit. I need to bloom. Snake needs to bloom. It's a trap, so when someone redeems hypnosis, it's gonna you're gonna get it. Hi Dragon Colony. I guess Snek is kind of mummy-like. Cobalt might redeem for the snake that turns your mic to only his sniffs. I go he for 3 minutes. And then when someone redeems the Cobalt mic, it will be yip for 3 minutes. Whenever Cobalt, oh my god. Hi Swift. Oh, is the fishing is not working too? What the heck? Yeah, like I mentioned, everything was jank. Yeah, fish is here, but it's just not working. Here, let me reopen that. Because for whatever reason, my connection was fine, but they just suddenly decide to not work for a solid minute, I guess. It was kind of scary because everything was... Yeah, everything was... I couldn't read the chat. You Zhao first. Are you going to dinner? No? It's almost 10. No, what the heck? I have good art. Thank you, Narix. I want to do... I still want to continue doing... So... Oh, right. So... Oh, thanks for testing. Fish works now. So... Before... I mean, I could just start doing art while I talk about this. Let me open up this real quick then. So the thing is, since I have not found a job yet, I'm gonna need to hopefully rely on doing art for a little bit. I mean, I'm not exactly earning by doing art, but this is for like when push comes to shove, at least I have something to offer people, you know what I mean? Know what I mean, right? So at least that's the plan for now. I'm trying. Alright, I haven't switched scenes yet. Oh my god. Here. Okay, there we go. So I want to... I had wings last time already, so... I mean, we're almost there. We just need to do some, like, Zeus magic, right? So we need something that resembles more Zeus, I guess. Oh yeah, I have things... Oh yeah, I do have things, like, hidden. I mean, I don't know if this resembles Zeus, but I'm trying. So, evening ako, hello. I will drink my fruit juice. Chat, I might be plural. Oh my god. Night Kobo. Yeah, I generally want to do more streams during this time, especially on Wednesday night. Oh, and I forgot to mention, there's also a reason why I'm streaming now. It's because tomorrow, tomorrow there's a retinoscopy. Eye doctor, essentially eye doctor tomorrow. So I'm gonna go there. I don't know how long it's gonna take. Hopefully not too long. So yeah, I hope tomorrow I can stream normally. As much as I would love to play Warframe, I do need to do some art sometimes. So I'm thinking if I can, right? If I can, I'm thinking every Wednesday night is like an art time, and maybe some extra art time on some days as well. Because if I were to do only 1 week of once per week of art, it's barely enough. I feel like it's definitely barely enough, right? So I want to do more. I want to do more, genuinely. What is this? Oh yeah, it's the raindrop for Zeus. Yeah, 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 yeah. I was having, I was, yeah, I was just hiding everything because I was trying to do the wings, and I guess I kind of did. This is what I had. This is what I have now. I don't know. That's a really long tail. Actually valid. That is a really long tail. You know what? This might not even be long enough. Until here turn, yeah, it's definitely not long enough. Like you see, right? I mean, scale about, right? About. So the tail starts here, about here, about. So here, and then turns another length. So here, another length, plus a little bit. So maybe a little bit longer. Wow. And I love tail. I really love long big tail. So anyways, at least that's my plan now. Since I couldn't really find a job, which is very unfortunate. Oh, I want to do this before I forget. I want to bug people that I'm doing this. Heck yeah, it's time to be a nuisance. Boom. Okay, there we go. Longest tail. I love long tail. When I was making my own snake back then, I wanted longer tail, but I didn't make a longer tail. I mean, my tail was only basic length, I would say, basic length. So, wasn't the best. It wasn't the best. Anyways, what we're gonna do today, haha, that is the question. What are we gonna do today? We are going to fix this hind leg because holy hell, doesn't look good. But it's okay. We're going to fix this. It's gonna look real good, hopefully. This one looks like frog legs, so I'm gonna change that. They look sharp. They look menacing. They should be doing some rip and tearing. I haven't done art for months. Hopefully I know how to do this still. So we have clay build up for the basic stuff. Okay. We have them standard for the tiny detail. We have move topology for, and put my mic up. Oh my god, I have no space. No way. Oh, chat, actually, I want to update something as well today. Give me a second. Okay, I was trying to adjust the mic and I don't want the high squeaky noise to get captured. So I was also, like, after the job hunting, I went back home at about like 3 p.m. because I was really tired going to many places, even though it's like kind of far as well. Basic jobs, right? Waiter, waitress, well, waiter, because I cannot be trans here. It's very dangerous. But anything can be trans on my stream. Anyway, that's besides the point. Many places with like very basic jobs, right? I've been trying to apply for many, and so far to no avail, right? It's unfortunate, but it is what it is, right? Especially in these during this economy, and then no way people are going to hire someone who's just going to work for what, 2 days a week, right? Yeah, so yeah, it's a little bit unfortunate, but it's okay. I'll get there. So how am I gonna fix this? I think I'm going to make the toes longer in general, right? So yeah, I've been trying, right? I've been trying, and even though it has not been working really nicely, but at least I still have this, right? As much as I hate to admit it, right? I still don't want to treat what I'm doing now is a job as a job. So it is something that I do to de-stress myself, I would say, and then I am extremely lucky to be able to be here while having almost, I would say, life-sustaining money. So bless, I guess bless currency exchange, but I don't know. So far, it's been fine, right? It's been almost a month, and haven't really, haven't really, yeah, couldn't really find a job, but we'll get there. Def, okay, I do. I thought I didn't have mirror on this. Get the fuck out of me. Okay, let's see. I need to zoom in at the hind legs. It is definitely longer. Yeah, definitely. Also, very long one here doesn't make sense, I would say. Here, smaller. Mars. Hello, dragon. Me being a snake, but at heart, I'm still a kobold. Hope Mars is doing good. Welcome. Oh my god, dragon. Do you find? Don't think I've ever seen snake mode. I mean, to be fair, I haven't been. Uh, uh, for months, yeah, I haven't been a snake for months. I made the snake on my own, right? And honestly, it was really fun to make the snake. And snake is also how I found. Hey, snake is also how I found out that I love hypnosis. So, oh no, oh no, oh fuck! I need to hide the wings. Actually, as much as I can hide, I'm gonna hide them. Raindrops doesn't hurt. Ooh, clip art. You know what? I'm gonna hide them. Oh, heck yeah! Get hypnotized. Whoa, ooh, you're feeling your wallets are flying away. Your wallets are touching the screen. It's screaming, "Give money to this." I'm joking. I'm joking. Uh, the angle is a little bit hard. It's kind of funny when I was like figuring out the hypnosis redeem, and then I just slapped the VW Plus funny effects in, and I got this. Yo, wait, what's with the camera? Okay, there we go. I already kind of forgot how everything works. I haven't been doing art for months. I need to get back to it. So I guess from this point onwards, I will try my best to do more art, I would say, right? I guess at this point it's kind of needed, so I'll try my best. I'll try my best. Also, I actually don't know if I'll be able to stream tomorrow because of the eye doctor appointment thingy. It's also partially why I'm streaming now, right? Just so that I could tell you guys about like my eye doctor appointment tomorrow. Well, it's not really an appointment. It's more like a referral by the doctor. The doctor has been telling me to go to the eye doctor for a good while, but I just haven't really been there yet. So actually, before I keep doing this, Yeah, I need sharp. Yeah, I need to make it sharp. I also need to remember that I can use pinch. I have never really used pinch, but I think pinch is really good for making sharp edges. I mean, that's sharp, alright, but maybe not like that. Maybe not like that. Yeah, we are not going to pinch now. I think now it's like I need to get the shape right before doing anything. I think what I'm trying to do to the legs now, or to the toe, is I want to make them step forward a little bit. I hope my stylus doesn't hit the mic too much. I don't know why I don't know why it's always so hard to do art to me. Honestly, I haven't been doing arts because there are many times where I want to do art, but then my brain is like, I don't want to do art, and then it comes to a point where fuck, right? It comes to a point where I'm just like, I want to start, but the first step is so difficult that it's like scaring me away a little bit. I don't know what's scaring me. I don't get it too, right? But then today, finally, I kind of conquered it. I would say, kind of, kind of. Actually, you know what? I think I know what's up. Something is wrong here. It's the shape. It's not right, and I'm going to change that. No, Jiro. Hello, welcome. Hope Jiro is doing good. Oh my god. The chin scratch doesn't really follow my chin. It's kind of funny. Sometimes a chin scratch can look funny. So yeah, I guess I haven't been doing art for a long time. To those who doesn't know, I don't know if I consider myself as a 3D artist, but for now I used to be a 3D artist. I mean, I guess I still am, just haven't been doing art a lot for a long time. But finally I'm back. So I wish I can have the mental fortitude to keep doing art more. Kobo is not a kobold today. Yeah, whenever it's art time, kobold runs away, so that the snake, me, have to take over the stream for a little bit. Also, I never really realized what like I did mention this just now, but does this make me plural? Because sometimes I like a little bit of like a I like it. I like a little bit of a character play, I would say. Maybe that does make me a plural. A little bit. No, no. I think this should be fine. Even if it's like messed up after, I can just like... Never heard that term before, so no idea. I think I only vaguely heard the term before. And also recently I read it to Seraph System, who also identifies as plural. That's how I know about the term. Apparently it's someone who identifies as multiple different identities. Maybe that's like the basic knowledge of plural, but I'm not too sure. Okay, let's see. Yeah, I think I want to. Yeah, it feels very. Does it feel steep? No, like something about the shape just doesn't look right. I think maybe it's just here that's too thick. Like here doesn't make sense. Here doesn't really make sense. Oh yeah, here doesn't make sense. I guess. But let me try doing. Don't I don't think this is it? Question mark. You know what? No, no, no. This is too drastic of a change. I think what I'm trying to do, what I'm going to do at least, is I'm gonna fix this part right here. It doesn't look good. I hate it. When on if on first glance I hate it, something is wrong. That's how I make my models. Depends on how they define it. I didn't think it mean many things. Only I have general in real life with my real identity. When they make a real plural, people need to define and explain the terms. Oh, I never thought. Oh, I never thought of that. Yeah, then that probably doesn't make sense then. But then I don't know. Like, but if someone were to be an expert when it comes to this, so that they can explain to what it is, then it would be nice. This one, yeah. Ooh, it's small, big. I need. Okay, let's see. I have other pictures that shows. You know, I always, I always ask myself sometimes, or like I always think to myself, I guess that. Oh, hi, Peter. Yeah, I'm a Snek today. How are you today? A little bit tired, but now that I'm here, I'm slowly feeling better now. Oh, Peter is doing good. I forgot what I wanted to say. Wow, my brain doesn't work. Oh my god, I'm so surprised. Pretty good? Heck yeah, good to know. Hi, Canine. Ooh, that's a snake corb. Oh my god, we love a snake corb. Wait, it should be Snorb. Snorb. Oh my god. I couldn't change the redeem on the redeem command though. Snorb. It's a very steep change. They don't really have that, but for Zeus has that. So it's a little bit different. I'm looking at my generic dragon. like a generic Western dragon design. Looking at the hind legs, it looks... It is a tree shape. I just messed up. I think this one more steep? No, it's already very steep. Like, why does this thing look... Why does this thing look like I hate it? I need to know. I'm trying to look at more references so that I can tell what's going on. Something doesn't look right. Oh my god, 185 stream streak? Holy shit, thank you, Peter. Thank you. That, holy fuck, that means so much. Tara being a siiiiiiiiigh? Yeah. When it's art time, Kobo runs away. Snake got uncorrupt? Yeah. It's okay. When Snake is uncorrupt, Snake can still do art. I think I'm just gonna make this one a little bit more flat. I think this one's not supposed to be this chunky on the side view. It should not be. Yeah, it should not be. Let me... I want to make it flatter. I realize that one is pretty loud. I can be a Hydra. Am I a Hydra, chat? Am I a Hydra? Whoa. I'm kind of a Hydra, oh my god. And stretch the tail and moisturize yourself. I'm gonna... Sometimes she's just gonna drink juice. Oh my, more heads to pet? I do love getting pet a lot. Be Kobo or Snek, I love pets either way. Well, I guess it looks slightly okay-ish. But it should not be... Ah, it's supposed to be straight. Well, not exactly straight. The toe starts here, so they should have like some things here. Like muscles already building up around here. Well, I don't know anything about muscles, so to me personally, these are all just like volumes. Volume meshes. Like during art class, I didn't even listen to the class. I'm just I'm just like, I don't understand muscles. I couldn't. I should have listened, but I didn't. Everything is just volume to me. There's a Kobo might redeem, but where's a Snake might redeem? There isn't one. You can make me become a Kobo might though. It still works. It's like... Oh. Oh.
Oh. Snake with cowboy voice. You never know, this might be Snake's real voice. Oh my goodness. You never know. Oh my god. I want to add a little bit of inclination here. Some something to look at, I guess, but not too obvious. It's probably not gonna affect too much. Ooh, get hypnosis. Oh my god. Every time someone redeems hypnosis, I'm just gonna be like, ooh, you're feeling your wallet flying to the screen, screaming to give money to the snake. Oh my goodness. Whoa, it's gonna be 300 gifts. Oh my god, 300 gifts of is wild. I think it's best to just pull it out. And at one point here, and then push in a little bit. Inclination, move. Oh, fuck. It's even better in Kobo with Hypno. It's like a kobold trying to hypnotize you all by mistake. You know, I always love the trope of a character who has hypnosis abilities, or let's say the most obvious example would be Medusa, who will turn people into stone when Medusa looks at people. And then I always love the trope of like a Medusa accidentally turns people into stone, but she didn't mean it. I don't know, I find that endearing a little bit. Depending on how head. No, I don't think so, at least. Is it? No, right? Yeah, it's a little bit like this. So you add that one up. Here should be a little bit as well. It's like a volume thing. And then you're gonna...
You can have mass to control a part of thing. Are you... Never like doing full pressure. It's just something that I cannot control. So every time I do art, it would just be like me wiping the same place, trying to control volume slowly. I don't know, that way it's a lot easier for me, I would say. And then over here is like the front part of the toe is slightly bigger than the inner side. But then I also don't want to like, where's the floor? Floor. Where's the floor? Oh, the floor. I mean, the floor works, but where's the floor? Not here. You know what? I never did a quadruped character before at all. This is my first time making like an actual pharaoh dragon, which is a challenge, I would say, but I'm trying. Making a dragon is always fun though. No bias. I just love I love dragons, but no bias. Okay, I guess we fix the shape here. I want to make it sharp, like real sharp. Is this a commission? How do you get to Pharaohs? This is Zeus. Not exactly commission. I wouldn't say that's a commission. This is a channel point redeem thingy. Oh no. Oh, sorry. Let me. I'm gonna make a correction. This is last year. Last year. No, is it last year? Oh yeah, it is last year. So last year, I was trying to fundraise for myself because I was trying to go through a trip, a forced trip to Genting, I believe. So the top three donor gets something in return. I know it's kind of like douchey of me to do that, but I needed it. It was a forced trip. My sister, because my sister wants to go to KL, and then she insists of bringing me to go with her and mom. So I'm being forced to go there. That's why I need to do the fundraising. And yeah, this is the fundraising that I did last year. Oh my god. And I haven't finished it till now. I haven't finished it now. Still haven't. So I need to start doing art more often. Hmm. Oh yeah, by the way, I'm making Zeus. In case you don't know what Zeus looks like, this is Zeus. Very cool dog, actually. Zeus is a very cool dog. Zeus is heckin' amazing. So yeah, the first time making a feral, it's a big challenge, but I think what I have currently might be glazing myself for a little bit, but it's not too bad. I would say it's not too bad. I'm still trying to like make it look good, so here I am. I'm still trying anyway. I forgot if I said this, but I hope you're all having a nice day or night. It's nighttime here. It's 10:17 p.m. So it's 10:17 p.m. now. So I'm having a comfy time. Doing art a little bit. I miss doing art. I really do. Boop, 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 boop. Wait. Oh, the boop still doesn't appear. I wonder. I mean, I did change that, but they still don't want to appear. Weird. I mean, they appear, but they're somewhere else. Hmm. I forgot to mention. I guess after some time has passed when I'm doing art, I tend I tend to hyper focus and not really speak at all. So No. Meepity meep. I'm here for the chill kobold. Ooh. Hopefully a chill snake works. Because kobold ran away when our... Hi Safira, welcome. Oh my god, dragon. Well, I may be a snake, but I guess I'm still a kobold at heart. I love dragons, I couldn't help it. Hope you're doing it. I guess the shape still looks a little weird, especially down here. I'll make it smooth for now. Easier for me to control after. And kobold at heart, still a kobold even if not in body. True. As a snake, I still love dragons a lot. I honestly wanted to play Warframe now, but I haven't been doing art for so long. I have to do some art. And I also have a little backlog that I need to like do, so I need to stop being lazy and just do some art, you know. It's needed. I will keep it like this for now. I feel like since I haven't been doing art for so long, I feel so weak when it comes to if something looks right or if something looks wrong. I feel like when I was making I was making my own models, right? Or I was making like, let's say this snake. I was making sticks here. I was making Tira. I was making Linglong, right? I have a stronger sense of like, or slightly stronger sense of proportion. Like if something looks off, I feel it. That's usually how I do art, right? I mean, sure, I have reference when I'm doing other people's art, but when I was doing my own, dude, whoa, oh my god, oh my god, hi Foxy Plays, Lucy, how was Nine Souls? Hi, this Maya. Hope I didn't butcher your name. Hello, I'm a snake today because I'm doing art. And Cobalt ran away while Arden. But I barely didn't do lady. Lady.
Hello
Oh,
and welcome.
hey, thanks for the follow. Can I call the spear? Gonna raid and run. Need sustenance. Thank you for being awesome. Oh, I thought you're the one being awesome here. Thank you. And thanks for the raid. I hope 9 Souls was fun. I hope stream was fun. And go take care of yourself. Sustenance is very important, right? Also, Maya? Okay, that's Maya, I think. Everyone look at Lucy. Amazing cobalt. Oh my god. I love cobalt. Also welcoming everyone from Lucy's, right? Um, I'm Tura. Usually I'm a kobold, but I'm a snake today I'm a snake when I do art, so yeah. I'm Tura. I'm a snake. I play a bunch of game. I love fighting games. I love dragons to bits. I still love dragon bits. And I do art rarely. Welcome. And you call me anything as long as it isn't late for dinner. What would it But when would it be late for dinner? I mean, it is kind of late here. It's 10:25 p.m. I know English. Oh my god. And a very pretty snake at that little pendant color for it. Oh my god. Thank you. Oh my god. I make my own models. Holy heck. Thank you. I'm currently working on a overdue model for a very long overdue model for Zeus, right? I just kind of want to show for a little bit. This is what I have so far. Let me just unhide everything. Raindrops and the wings. Boom. This is what I have so far. This is the reference that I have. Not the best, but I'm still trying. The first time doing a Pharaoh Dragon, I guess I did alright. I hope. I hope. I don't know. I don't know. I'm trying. We're 12 hours apart. Oh my god. Yeah, I guess being in Malaysia, it happens a lot. See, a lot of people, when I stream during my normal time, which is about, let's say, about 1 p.m., about 1 p.m. my time. So I usually stream during that time. And then for my viewership, usually, all my viewer friends is like early in the morning, like 6, 5, or it's literally midnight for them. So, being in Malaysia is weird sometimes. I'll be asleep, there'll be one. Yeah, see? Time zones is weird. Being in Malaysia is weird. Florida cat? Ooh, Florida is US, right? Yeah, that should be US. I heard of Florida. I mean, it's not that I live in a kampong area. I don't. You know what? I live in a kampong area, or used to. Kampong as in rural. I used to live in a rural area, but now I'm living in not so rural area, but in a more quiet residence area. Still works. EST? Yes, EST time zone. I don't know how time zone works, but over here is like GMT plus 8. Yeah, Malaysia time is like GMT plus 8. Alright, let me hide these. I'm gonna continue fixing the heckin' toes. Oh wait, I did this as part of the body? No, I'm stupid. Oh no. What have I done? I mean, I guess it still works. Oh no. Okay, don't panic. Everything is fine. Hope it is still cozy for you. Yeah, I miss doing Wednesday night streams. What happens? So when it comes to, I'm gonna nerd a little bit. So when it comes to models like this, so it would be best to keep the, let's say, this entire body, or even for people who works with more detailings, right? They would separate head as one mesh. So it would be like this as like one mesh, and then it would be the neck until the body as like one mesh, and then it would be like legs as one separate mesh, right? And then it would be tail another one. So, and then this one I should have, I don't know what was, I don't know what I was thinking. It's fine. It's fine. I'm not gonna rig this. This is a non-rigging project. It's fine. Sorry, I'm keeping it all together instead of segmenting it. Yeah, I mean, it would be nice to keep them like apart. I have a bunch of like subtools here, or layers, you know, I would say here, but in the end, because my project usually is like, let's say if I want to use it for this, right? What you're looking at right now, me, as like a VTuber Plus thing or VC face, it would be a little bit more optimized if it were to just be one mesh and the bones are controlling one mesh, right? There are people who do it with separate meshes. I've seen some in VR chat. Those are a little bit unoptimized because, you know, essentially there are multiple meshes, multiple IDs, so it's gonna be like a little bit more a little bit more resource consuming, I would say. Just a little bit, right? Just a little bit. It's not too big of a deal. Bit for tracking, but harder for modeling. Or better for optimization, I would say. It would be a little bit hard to track as well, since let's say if I want to animate, what would be the best example? The jaw. Yeah. So jaw, usually people have the top jaw as like one mesh, and then the bottom one as like another one, so that they can have this like, they can do the mum thing. I hate not having hand tracking. I have leap motion. I couldn't use it now. But yeah, it will be better for animation. Yeah. But then there are obviously pros, right? Who knows what they're doing. So they can absolutely have like one or very little amount of mesh, and then they can still like animate things really goodly. So I'm not there yet, but I'm trying. I'm trying. I'm trying. Like genuinely though, I love doing art, but it's always like the first step of starting to do art is always the hardest, I would say. I don't know why though. Hmm. Thank you. This one looks a little bit weird, no? Hmm. You know, sometimes I kind of want to just say something like, you know, since me being Chinese, so sometimes my spoken English might not be that good, right? Might not. I'm trying. 因为我也没有理由整个 stream 讲华语就有点尴尬了，我觉得。I'm actually glad that I decided to. When I first started streaming, I was deciding whether if I want to speak Chinese or if I want to speak English for my streams. I'm honestly glad that I chose to speak English instead. I don't know, it makes me feel nice. Makes me feel nice now that I can at least speak English in a more coherent way, I would say. Yeah. Like, it's funny how in this family, I'm like the only one who speaks English. My family can barely speak English. And then there's me, practically a foreigner. Haha, I'm cheating. No, nothing or modeling, animating, or anything, but I always love watching. Oh, that's really nice. Thank you. I honestly love doing art too. I just need to get past of that first feeling of fear of starting doing art. I don't know why. It's always very scary. Yeah, for whatever reason. I don't know. You speak English very well. Oh my god. Thank you. Very lovely sounding way of speaking as well. Whoa, that's no wait, that's high praise though. Holy heck, thank you. I try, I try. I think I think first things first is to gonna I need to pull the toes out. Why did I do the middle one first? The camera is gonna fuck me over. Okay. It's fine. Oh my god, it's a very phallic shaped object. I don't know what it could be. Holy heck. Wow. Oh my goodness. My mind is definitely not dirty there. I was thinking something else. Me? I wouldn't. I would never. Oh yeah, but then it also helps actually that is it weird? Because I I wanted to I wanted to know more about the Maple story, like the MMO game. And then because of that, that kind of drives me of wanting to learn English. And here I am. Because back then during primary school or mid school years, I couldn't speak anything. Like I couldn't speak English at all. And then my Bahasa Malaysia is also like trash. Like even now my BM is like really bad. But I try. At least I'm glad that I'm learning English quite a lot. And it makes me feel nice. And able to communicate with a lot more people here is also really nice. Tira's doing art by of enough points. I mean, the shoulder up sculpture thing is gonna take a long time for me to finish. So since a lot of people already have that amount of points, I need to make like a raffle kind of thingy, I guess. Because if it when it comes to first redeem, first serve, it's gonna be yeah. I'll make it like a raffle kind of thing, so that people have chances, and it's not going to be just a few people. One day I may have to try and learn how to speak other languages. I know a few Germans and Polish people, so we'll have to surprise them someday and just start talking with them in their more comfortable language. Ooh, I mean, I don't speak German. I also have zero knowledge on Polish. Actually, I have zero knowledge on both German and Polish. I could speak Chinese and sub Chinese though. But yeah, it's honestly really nice to be able to like talk to people in their native tongue. I think it's always a pleasant surprise. Like if people were to talk to me in Chinese on stream, like they type Chinese and then it's like, whoa, holy heck, wow, amazing. But then, don't do it too much because people wouldn't be able to understand. So yeah, I actually have a lot of like backlog that I'm trying to like catch up to. This is like this model right here is long overdue. Long overdue. It's supposed to be last year's stuff. I haven't been doing art for so many months. It's crazy. Although I'm glad to be back now. Never too late, but it's very late. And there's someone else that speaks Portuguese, so I want to learn some of that. Maybe if I get to know you more, I might try to learn some Chinese from you too. I mean, I would not be a good teacher, but I sure as heck can try. A Chinese is tough, but okay, look, I'm gonna be so for real right now. I'm a native Chinese speaker. Although Malaysian Chinese is a little bit different because Malaysian Chinese is like, "Hiya, chin cai gong I beg check we don't know lah, right? We have Malaysian Chinese is so informal, right? Because when it comes to Chinese, right? People will know Chinese from like the proper China Chinese, and then we'll learn those kind of Chinese as like the basis, which is nice, right? But then Malaysian Chinese is so different. Different as in the way we speak is very we combine three languages essentially because in Malaysia is like a multicultural place, right? So learning English, Chinese, and BM is like essential, compulsory in schools, which is hard, but it is what it is. Peggy Bolt, hi. Look, it's another cobalt. Wow. Welcome. It's always nice to see another bolt. Well, even though I'm not a bolt now, but I'm a bolt at heart still. Hope you're doing good. Found you? Ooh, Maya. More cobalt? More cobalt is always nice. Hope you're doing good. Welcome. Almost the America of speaking Chinese, blending a few together and making something that is new. A little bit, yeah. Because we jumpo mix. We mix languages, so it's gonna be very different. Please don't hypnotize me. I'll try not to. Don't. I mean, don't stare. You could stare. It's fine. No one's gonna redeem the hypnosis redeemer anyway. Am I right? Yeah. It's not gonna happen. I. Hmm. I could use pinch. That's too much. You'll be fine. Who want to be a little mesmerized, but by such a so without points for it yet? It's fine. Don't worry about it. Ooh, wait, I didn't think about pinch plus spoof is gonna look this good. I should do that more. build up volume, pinch it, smooth it. Okay, might be a little bit too much actually. Hmm. Another snake pal. They're more hypnotized than anyone. Oh, a snake, a snake that gets hypnotized instead of hypnotizing others. Hey, I love all kinds of snake. It's fine. Snakes are amazing. I love them. Jazz enjoyer. I think it was about. Oh God, I think it's about like 8 years ago. 我几岁？29，29，2022年我毕业。Yeah, about more or less 8 years ago, when I was still studying in university, I at some point I couldn't sleep during that time, right? And then I had the PC, and I was like, maybe I could try to listen to something while I try to sleep. Here I am. And jazz is great. What can I say? Mm, it feels like a little bit too sharp. Oh my god, toes? Yeah. I honestly made toes before. Like months ago I started doing I already finished doing the front legs and hind legs. But then after coming back to this project I was like, where? I went an audible where? And then I wanted to change it. And here I am. Trying to change it now. I mean I have reference and I've been trying to like is that it is hypnosis. I was like something is changing drastically at the corner of my eye. Ooh, you're getting hypnotized. Oh my god. You can feel your wallets flying towards the screen, screaming to give money to this screaming to give money to the snake. Oh my god. Whoa, damn. Yeah, the wallet is definitely trying to. It's definitely trying to give money to the snake. Oh my god. I was just going to give hugs. Hey, you know what? Hugs are good. I love hugs. Also, hi, Lex. Hope Lex is doing good. Hmm. I just woke up from being asleep almost 10 hours. I have enough of an altered state. I'm sorry, not sorry. Oh yeah, but for real though, if at any point, if you feel if you feel like you are feeling nauseous or anything, look away. It's very important, right? I'm just gonna like mention it because it is still like it's short, but it is still epilepsy warning, right? It is rapidly changing colors. It is rapidly changing bright colors. So yeah, be careful, be careful. All you know, it's a like funny little bit. It's a little joke, but if it's like actually making you feel uncomfortable, look away. It's be careful. Right, take care of yourself. Just saying, but very important. Make sure you're fine. Good to know. I love that tail, and the hypnosis wasn't too bad. Very nice altogether. I didn't want to make it too long as well, because I was honestly afraid. I mean, when I first found out, I mean, when I was making the Snake character, it is also how I found out that I love hypnosis. Yeah, that's how I found out. And I was like, okay, I need something that screams hypnosis.
Hello
And then,
and
oh,
welcome.
thank you. And then I was designing the hood design for the Snake. And I was like, okay, yeah, okay, what should I give? What should I give? Immediate like patterns coming in. It's like, yeah, I wanted to make a spiral pattern, honestly. But then I was like, no, that's too on the nose. That's like too on the nose. And then I was like, yeah, no, let's do like non-spiral, but a lot of circle. Here it is. Don't want my tail switch from side to side too closely then? No, I'll do that. I like tails. Did you know tails are amazing? I love tails. Not the character, but tails in general. Tails is fine. And tails from the hit series Sonic the Hedgehog. Not a big fan of tails. Tails is not dragon. And Tails is a great character. Tails is not bad. Not bad. Look, I have some requirements. I love dragons, alright? I fucking love I may be okay, I may be a snake now. I'm still a kobold at heart, okay? I love dragons. Oh my, chasing kitty tails so forward. I love it. I guess I can be quite forward sometimes. Only sometimes though. You know, I'm just kind of hoping that tomorrow's retinoscopy appointment is not gonna take too long. Well, hopefully anyway. I'm not a dragon, but still friends so hopefully that helps. Yeah, definitely. It helps. I mean, I love dragons, but if people are nice to me, I still like them a lot. Yeah. There still be Vector the crocodile. Vector is like so dumb. I love him. When my partner was young, they had a crush on Tails and drew a bunch of Tails crush stuff on their notebook. Their parents finally got mad, like, oh, but why got mad? I guess their parents don't like Tails? Question mark. A tail hater? Huh? Oh, is it like they got mad because they know about the furry stuff? Question mark. Like their parents know about the furry stuff. That's unfortunate. My family doesn't know anything about furry. I have a suit of my own. Can I show? That would be a little. You know what? I'm gonna show it. It's because they were like part of the satanic panic thing around. What? Okay, yeah, that's outrageous. What the hell is that? Parents get mad at stupid things. Yeah, they were overreacting over media. Oh no, that's fucked up. I think you know what? I'm gonna go and say that they watch Tails doll.exe and like they watch some .exe stuff that like there's like Tail is like the satanic being. Maybe that's why. I forgot what I wanted to do. Let's continue doing this. Welcome to Cobalt Brain. Even though I'm a snake, I forget things. Long before then, damn. Media ignorance are all a problem, really. People just want to get upset over the status of things. Yeah, I get that. I mean, at one point, I guess they are trying to be protective. But then again, right? Being protective over people's interest is weird. That doesn't sound right, you know? It doesn't sound right in general. Not a big fan, not a big fan. Protective is one thing, over controlling is another. Yes, exactly. That's so hard. Oh my god. I got lucky. Oh yeah, I was about to talk about my parents. So my parents know nothing about the furry stuff, but I do have a suit that they know about. Every time they ask like, oh yeah, what is this suit about? It's like cosplay. And then they ask like, oh, anime, huh? Is it anime thing? It's like, yeah. And then they go like, okay, okay, go have fun then, go have fun. Oh yeah, I want to sew my, I want to sew my shoot. Oh my god, I'm gonna cry. Weird crush on cartoon characters growing up. To be honest, I still do. Got a crush on the dragon girl right now, and I'm married. Ooh. Brain is on. Hey, a kobold, a kobold liking dragons sounds normal to me. I would say. Keeping someone safe from harm, all good, but oh no, don't you dare view that cartoon. That's too far. Yeah, exactly. I mean, why control what other people watch? I mean, if the things that they're watching is clearly badly influencing, I don't, if it's like obviously it's bad, then yeah, you should say something about it. But when it's, if it's tails, then why, you know? Kenapa saya tak tahu? Hah? Nah, dia mau nangis. Dia mau, dia memang mau tails. Apa hal ni? You know? Dragon girls are cute, but still, if wifey an issue, could always give a treat to dress out with your fantasy crush. See, now the term dragon girls is a spicy one because every damn time I'm gonna get so passionate. I'm sorry, but when it comes to dragon girls, and then people is gonna be like, "Oh yeah, it's just anime girls with horns and tails." Like, fuck no, I want actual dragon girl, like huge dragon thing crush me. Huge dragon girl. That's a creature. Like nothing about crushing. Nothing about. Yeah. Dragons are spicy by nature, right? I love them. Dragons are heckin' amazing. My partner understands that I get very obsessed over things sometimes, and so do they. So there's no problem here. It helps they're furry too, so we can understand our minds a lot better. Yeah, that definitely helps. And then there's also one thing. you had clear communication, right? You had clear communication. And communication is like a number one thing when it comes to relationships. I mean, I have zero relationship experience. I never dated. I never, yeah, never dated, period. Right. But then I had so many people who comes to me, like my mid school friends, and then they come in and say, they essentially they're crying to me like, oh, nobody likes me. Oh no. But then it's like, did you talk to them clearly? Right? Like, the thing is, I'm sorry for spitting something right here, but the thing is with people, right? How do I say this? Sometimes, I do this too, don't get me wrong, right? Sometimes I expect people to know what I'm thinking, which is absurd, right? I do that too. I admit I do that too. But then that's the thing, they don't know. They don't know. You're gonna tell them. They need to know, right? If you say it, there's a chance. If you don't say it, it's a clear miscommunication issue. So yeah, communication is a really big thing. People underestimate how important communication is. It's kind of scary, actually. I have that too. I never thought of that. Yeah, I mean, I only recently had that moment of thought, and like, if I don't speak my mind, well, not always though, right? Sometimes things are best left unsaid. But then, if you want to communicate with someone, if it's someone that you want to interact with, I guess, communication is nice. Communication is important. I mean, yeah, that does mean that I'm quite vocal, I guess, when it comes to. I never had a relationship though. Okay, I'm gonna be honest here. I have a two actually. I have two mistresses, and then recently, well, not recently, but about last year, I learned my lesson and be like, yeah, I need to be more vocal about things, but don't be too like overstimulating. Is that a word? Overstimulating and not like too much. Now this is like a hard part too, right? When is too much? I don't know, but it's like I feel it, you know. It's like a gut feeling. It's like a gut feeling. Oh my, one combo, two leashes. No, I mean yeah, but no. Oh man, I wanted to say something, but I feel like I shouldn't. You know what? I should. About earlier this year. Yeah, about earlier this year, I I hung out with one of my previous master, who is currently not my master anymore. Um, because we had some miscommunication. Haha, that's how I know about things. And we are still friends anyway. So we hung out for a bit earlier this year, and that's besides the point, right? But I realized something. I realized how much of a sub I am. Like, we were doing stuff, right? I was sub as hell. It was actually kind of funny. You know, what conversation has led to this? I don't know. Apparently here I am talking talking about stuff like this. Oh my god. Look, when it comes to doing art, we talk about anything, anything. All right, anything, anything. So long as it doesn't violate Twitch TOS, we should be fine. Conversation is like a river, it flows where it desires. Right? Right? It's like, yeah, it flows. And then it's like when something correlates with each other, and it's like, oh yeah, I want to talk about this. And when it comes to another thing, it's like, oh yeah, this reminds me of that. Leads everywhere. And crushes, I think. Yeah. I have crushes, but I think my first like my first big crush is a suitor named Tianlong, and because of time zones, I would wake up at 3 a.m. in the morning just to watch his stream. He did stream for a little bit, but then stopped doing it entirely, which is fine in my book, right? It's fine. But yeah, that's my first crush. I love the yellow colored dragon. I wonder if I can still find a picture of him. I would say that's a suit crush. Oh fuck. No. I miss doing art, honestly. I'm glad to be back doing art. I have so much backlog now I need to finish. I just need to keep this up. There's a suit I crushed on too named Tatsu. You probably know who. I do. Blue Narga Cobble. Yeah. Amazing artist as well. Seen a lot of animations. Wink. If you know, you know, right? So adorable. I know. Like Narga is already so cool. And then the kobold? Oh my god. What a combo. What a combo. Yes, the animations. A kobold of culture, I see. Gosh, it's so amazing. Too bad I couldn't join the Patreon because I'm broke as hell. But I'm glad there's some like public releases that, well, I can still watch. So, yay. In so few words, I'm do those spaces. In so few words. It is almost as if it's Kobo Brain. Wow. But then again, genuinely, Tatsu stuff is amazing. Like when it comes to animations, I love Tatsu stuff. I love Raidre. Yeah, Raidre is also amazing. Patient persons, I don't mind. Also crazy about saving cash too. The models in general. Like I wish I can make models like that. I need to try harder. I assume some of you haven't seen my kobold model, and then some of you haven't seen my snake model, which is this one. I have a kobold model who which I've been using for a good while. I love being a kobold. I could switch for a bit. Or I could just switch, it's fine. I just need to change the title. Alright, you know what? I'm gonna change. Give me a second. I would need to close VC face. I'm gonna freeze, but I'm still here. I'm opening on my own stream. I'm stupid. Okay, there we go. Oh my god, no wonder my PC was dying. Alright, just a second. I'm doing it. I'm sure you're great. No, thank you. Right, there's the reference. Boom. And then, oh yeah, I need to change the one inside. Give me a second. Where's it? One. Is it one actually? Oh, it is. It's too bright. Oh no. There, okay. The cobalt is not supposed to bloom. And this one actually have like the proper hand tracking. I just need to like enable it. I was a hyena for years until I realized that life was over. And cobalt fits me more mentally anyway, so I'm probably remaining cob for a long time. Yeah. I went from being this cryptid forest cryptid creature to a dragon to a snake to a kobold. I'm pink. Nice cob face, Kin. Oh my god, thank you. I also need to show my favorite thing. Give me a second. My favorite thing of this model. I also made my own kobold. I made my own models. I love them. Although sometimes when I see other people's model, I just feel a little bit ashamed. My model isn't that good, but I try. Oh, this is too far. Wait. Does this work? Wait, it did work, I think. Yeah, it works. It's a little bit janky though. Hello. I have the buttons. Very cute kobold. Yeah, so colorful. See, I love beans, so I need to make them like super, well, kind of super bright, I guess. And then the peppers. It's so weird. I never realized no thumb. Well, I realized, but I have four fingers, and I cannot count more than four because I'm a kobold. I'm sorry. I think I have a blab too. I think I made it. There we go. All right, chat. You're getting blabbed the entire stream from now on. All right, I'm disabling my hand tracking now because it's gonna kill my PC. Did you know my PC is weak as hell? Did you know every time I spin in here, my PC lags entirely? Yeah, amazing. Hey, we're back. Hey, I'm gonna change the title. It's fine. I don't want misinformation or something or anything like that. Okay, there we go. Okay, how do I do this? I think this one have this. I should probably add it here on both tours as well. Yeah. I love beans. Beans are great. I mean, I guess they kind of have them. Oh, they're not that sharp. Oh yeah, recently I also read some scientific studies, I would say. Maybe. I don't think it's a scientific studies. I just heard someone said it. Um something about like self-confidence, right? Like like mentality. No corp? No? There's corp? Is there no corp? Wait. There should be. My snake has got corped. Wait, where's my corp? I couldn't find it. Oh, I found the corp. Oh, I've been corped. Never mind, Ishogi. It moved. I think it's because I disabled it and I enabled it, so it counts as like a quote unquote new redeem, so I put it up. Hi, mean. Oh, this time you're gonna get licked. You're gonna get mlemmed. Everyone's gonna get mlemmed. Oh my god. Oh my god, the kobold is unstoppable. She's going crazy. Oh my god. Also, hope Meat is doing good. I'm so glad to be finally back doing art. A gnome? You been gnome? Alright, how do I do this? This one is really difficult though. Yep. Oh my god, yep. Oh, chat, I forgot. An exclamation mark kobold. To see how much of a kobold. I'm not a kobold! What the heck? There's also exclamation mark dragon. I'm a dragon today. What can I say? Whoop. I'm a dragon. Meat is not dragon or kobold. There's one more. No. Maybe there's one more. The secret one. I'm not this bird. What? We can let the bot decide how much of a kobold or dragon or bird you are today. No, meat is amazing. Oh. Oh yeah, studies. I was talking about some like mentality stuff. When it comes to doing your own thing, right? Doing hobbies, I guess. So when you're doing your own hobby, and then it's like, if you keep saying stuff like, "Oh man, I'm so bad at it. Oh fuck," and then it's gonna. I mean, you don't feel it, but mentally, I think you're already people who does that is already mentally defeated. So it's really hard to continue doing stuff anymore, right? I have been doing that a lot. I admit. I cannot help it. That's how I genuinely feel, but I need to change that, right? And then I heard like people saying how to counter that, like that particular situation. I keep having like self doubts or like self beat ups. Oh, corn biscuit. And a little tired from the job, from all the job huntings, but I'm feeling okay still. Yeah. If you say positive stuff about the things that you do, like for example, I'm doing art here, and then like I keep saying that, oh, I'm the coolest. Oh my god, my art is actually not bad. Like positive reinforcement. You don't exactly feel it, but you will feel more compelled to keep doing things that you are doing, and you tend to enjoy that hobby more. You tend to find it more enjoyable. I don't know how true that is, but it's something that I've been thinking a little bit about. It is definitely an interesting read or listen, actually. Although sometimes I feel like I yap too much. Being a kobold, I guess. The perk of being a kobold is that I can yap non-stop. Well, that's a lie. I don't yap non-stop, but I yap a lot. I still stop sometimes. Too long. I guess it needs to go here a little bit more. I forgot about the two-handed holding the status or two-handed holding pencil technique. I've been using the classic three-handed technique and my hand hurts. I forgot about that. I I kind of like it like this. Kind of. I mean, I can add the claw in like Blender and stuff. Or I could add it here and just like export it as one thing. No, I think it's best to add claws in Blender. Actually, is it? No. No, actually doing claws in making claws in ZBrush is better. So that I don't need to parent unparent meshes anymore. Ooh. I should add claws in ZBrush. And I can do that very easily because of the tools that I have in ZBrush. I've been spoiled by ZBrush. It's so good. A little bit too small. Ah, it looks very different here. I didn't pinch. I kind of like it when I don't pinch it. I mean, this one looks cool, but let's make it thicker. I think thick is good. Well, I already feel eepy. I mean, it's only It's only 11:25 p.m. I'm actually kind of worried about the retinoscopy visit tomorrow. Yeah, that looks a little jank. Jank as in it's not straight. Yeah. Mm. I don't know if I should make them stick together a little bit more. Mm. 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 I'm here, just got multiple things going on. Yeah, don't worry. It's okay. I will always mention things like real life stuff is a lot more important. It's fine, right? I just appreciate it when people does leave a lurk. That always makes me very happy. Well, this one looks good because it's straight. This one, I want to fix here. This one. So, boom. So here, down. Add a little bit here. It's not like this. Okay. Yeah. Wow. Cowboy's already feeling eepy. I cannot believe it. Hmm. I didn't save for 2 hours. I think that's a little spicy. Hi, Zuri. Oh my god, Zuri. Hello. Welcome. Hope your friend is doing good. Rayip. Oh my god, Rayip. No, that's weird. I'm not gonna add that. I'm doing some work, but almost done soon. Heck yeah, nice. Hope you're well. Hmm. I'm honestly feeling pretty well. I was a little bit tired, but now that I'm here, it makes me feel much better. And streaming always makes me feel much better. And now that I'm back, finally back doing some art, after months of not doing it, makes me feel even better. It is a little unfortunate that I can't find any like job still, but I'm gonna keep trying. I'm glad you did well. Heck yeah. Although I'm a tiny bit worried about tomorrow's retinoscopy or eye doctor because it's been so many years since I last been to the eye doctor, and I've been told that I need to make an appointment and just straight up check my eyes and see if they're okay still. They're being like 20 years of diabetes and all. Hmm. Hopefully everything is fine though. Or at least my eyesight still feels pretty fine. Just gonna get it checked just in case. Thank you. Big dragon hug. Does this make sense? I hope so. This is what I look. This is what I'm looking at. Yeah, this one is like too big of a difference. They should be big, but not this big. I wonder if I can cheat. Oh my god. That doesn't make sense, right? They should be touching the floor? I mean, maybe I could cheat a little bit. I mean, I've been cheating a little bit. Let's see. I could. Hmm, what? 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 Hi, Juno. Turkey time? Yeah, it's definitely not overdue. But yeah, hi, Juno. Hope you're doing good. Maybe, maybe this is fine. I think I, sh- I should save. Doing okay. Making homemade pizza with my own toppings on. Ooh, self-made pizza. Oh my goodness. It's it's almost 12 a.m. and I'm hungry again. It looks like it becomes more like a giant. That is pie. I know that word. It's definitely not what I think how it's pronounced, which is lasanga. I don't think it's pronounced lasanga. I heard of the word before, which is making me doubt that it's not lasanga. But I only know how to pronounce it as lasanga. It's okay. It is lasanga. I I thus declare it is now lasanga. But yeah, sounds good. But still, it's big for being a pizza. Well, I love big pizza. Oh, there's a long pool. The floor. I need. Why is the floor so short? I need something to... So I'm gonna be stuffed? Oh my god, belly? Um, what can I use? I need something to, like, let me know if it's straight. Ruler? I don't have a ruler. My phone? I guess my phone kind of works. Yeah, it kind of works. Okay. Well, kind of. Alright. Works in my book. Very, very nice. Now to fix this stretch thingy. It shouldn't be too hard, I feel like. Hmm. I guess over here looks kind of too thick. Yeah, I mean, I did pull it. Hmm. Oh gosh, I hope that makes sense. I think over here needs a little bit more. What? Corb? Haha. Every time you redeem Corb, your chat gets mlammed. I love that slow turn towards camera when I turn on the Corb. Because it's like at the corner of my eye, I saw something change. I was like, what's going on? I need to look at what's going on. And then I became orb. Oh my god. I will now subject to chat getting blamed. Oh, I dodged it. Heckin' blamed. Wait. Mushnoot. I think that's the high neck. It doesn't look the best, but... Wait. It doesn't look the best, but it's something still. I think down here needs, like, fix a little bit. This one just doesn't look right. Heckin' yip. Gosh, I didn't think about the bottom view. Oh, oh no, I forgot how much they changed here. Um, that is a wild looking shape. Hmm. Looking from afar, that's kind of a dragon, no? I think I made a dragon. Wow. I didn't think I could do it, but I kind of did it. It's not perfect still. I feel like if I were to, there might be something that I want to change still, but maybe the hind legs is a bit too like too. The toes are too far apart. Might need to change that. Oh, I love how sometimes my PC does that. It's like, yeah, I'm dying, boss. My PC always say like, I'm dying, boss. What are you doing? You fucking 700k polygons on your screen right now? What the hell? What the helly? What are you trying to do, boss? But yeah, I guess this is kind of a dragon. Maybe here could be a little bit protruding. Is that the word? Protruding. Like, oh fuck. I forgot sometimes move topology does this. It does this when there's like too much polygons. I mean, it's not the best looking, but At least that's a dragon. I mean, at first glance, I would say that it's a dragon. At least that's a win in my book, right? Like, if I were to look away for an hour and then come back and look at it, it's like, that's a dragon. I think I would do that. I think I would say that. It's a dragon. So, I think that's a win in my book. I'm gonna keep it like this for now because I'm kind of EP actually. It's like 12 a.m. Oh my god, it's 11:57 p.m. to be exact, but look, Copo's right at EP. Well, I might actually go to sleep because I kind of need to wake up early tomorrow to go to the retinoscopy appointment or just the visit thingy. So we'll see. I think I'm just gonna overwrite this one. Nah. Well, hopefully that's a good looking dragon, I hope. So the next time, which I hope is very soon, when I work on this model, I want to add more. I think the next time if I open up, I might want to change the hind legs. Currently, when I look at it, something still makes me feel uncomfortable. So hopefully the next time when I come back, I can see what's going on. But for now, I think I'll keep it like this, and I'll make more adjustments for the hind legs. Right? So hind legs, and then once that's done, it's time to add claws. Yeah, time to add claws. Claws. Let's see. Yeah, this one. This one should be sharper. Yeah, it should be a lot sharper. I guess I can definitely do that. It's not that difficult. Yeah, sharper, and then claws on. Yeah, I also, when it comes to, I guess I'll do a basic rig. Should I do a basic rig? I forgot what was promised. Oh yeah, I need to add teeth as well. So teeth, tongue, teeth, tongue, this piece of thing for the mouth, claws. Yeah, I guess the next time I open is going to be like some micro adjustments everywhere. I'm pretty sure because obviously when I first look at it, it doesn't it doesn't really resemble Zeus as much, other than like some distinct features like the clip-on horns, the raindrop scales, like these kind of things. What I'm scared of is the texturing. Oh no, the texturing is gonna be tough. There's so much gradient in like these lines. Ooh, it's gonna be a challenge, that's for sure. Hmm. This looks like it had never had a thought in its life, let alone a sad one. Hey, that's me though. I had no thoughts. Hi, Coffee Mensa. No thoughts, head empty, always. Yeah. But yeah, I'll stop here for now because I'm actually pretty EP. Kobo 1 EP. I did save, right? I'm just gonna save one more time for good measure. Don't worry about it. Maybe even another time for even gooder measure. Yeah, there we go. Alright, let me go here. Close this. Alright, who to raid? I'm checking, I'm looking. I'm looking. No, sorry about that. Oh my god, pet. Oh my god, muffin. Holy hecky. Oh my god, muffin. Wow. Oh my god, Dragon. What? Here, I'm bringing back the hen tracking. Oh my god. Thank you, Muffin. Thanks for the cozy lurk. Oh my god, you're welcome. Thanks for the lurk too. It was very lovely to hang out with you, Kin. It's always nice to see another kobold out there. Thank you. Eat well, I will. Thank you, Muffin. I'm not too sure if I can stream tomorrow for now because I don't know how long the eye doctor appointment is going to be. So we'll see. Oh yeah, actually one tiny question for y'all in the chat. Just curious. So I know that I've been talking about the ad stuff for a bit, right? So did any of you seen an ad on my channel? Because I'm curious. Last time me and my sister did a bit of an experiment. So I told her to like just open up my stream and leave it there, turn off all the ad blocks and stuff. And she left it there, but then there's no ads playing. So I'm kind of curious, right? Because Seripod did say ads will be playing, ads starting soon, 30-second ad break, and then, yeah, stuff like that. I don't know if it's actually playing. So, I'm asking this because I'm currently having zero ad revenue on Twitch, so I'm kind of curious because if ads actually play on my stream but then I get nothing out of it, it's kind of fucked up. That's why I'm kind of curious. Not that I can remember. I mean, fair enough, Muffin only arrived, so it's kind of hard to say as well. But yeah, it has been going on for months already. I did contact support. They didn't say much. um, it was kind of weird. They did mention something about regional ad, so I don't know if that's actually the case, right? So I'm gonna and some like from time to time I'm probably going to ask something about the ad playing on my channel. If anyone see one ad, like literally just one ad, I can go and talk to Twitch support about it. So that's why I'm a little bit like I know asking chat to do stuff for me is a little bit rude, but I do some lurkies. Oh, and thanks for the 5. Oh my god, I couldn't count. I can only count to 4. Right, who raided who? I mean, there's Gayetan, Bert. There's a Bert streaming. There's Zen streaming. There's Attic Monster streaming. I never really got a chance to rate Attic Monster because I never really stream at this time. Cute. No, Muffin's amazing. Wonder what they're doing. Oh, Attic doing art. I I kind of want to rate Attic, but I'm also a little bit shy. I don't know. I don't know. Fuck it. I'm rating them. I'm rating them. I don't know why I'm so shy though. Okay, you know I'm yeah, we're doing it. We're doing it. I'm I'm actually gonna wait. I'm just gonna plug my Discord. I'm not gonna plug my coffee, but my coffee's down there. But I have a Discord. Wait. Oh my god. I announced my stream stuff over there. Like this stream. It's kind of an off schedule stream, but I like it. And there's also Dragon Simping Corner because I love dragons a lot. I very love dragons. Heck yeah. And I'm gonna get just gonna type in a rate message. I mean Attic Monster. Would be nice to get uppies. I just feel I feel kind of shy raiding into them. Ah, okay, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. It's fine, it's fine. Okay, okay. There's no need to panic. Let me just type in the rate to let me just type in the rate to Attic Monster. Oh, they're doing an uncapped monster thon? Ooh. No need to panic, monster. I'll try. Apparently they're doing like a monster thon or like a subathon. No, just a thon. They're doing a thon. All right, I'm gonna raid and I'm gonna get some EP for tomorrow. Then I'm gonna wake up early. But I think it should be fine. Oh. So yeah, thanks for. Well, before I know how to speak. Don't worry. Before the raid though, couple still wanna stay. Thank you all so much for joining with me today. Really appreciate all of you. Love you so much. And also know that you guys are heckin' loved, valid, and matter. Very valuable. Couple loves you all. And here comes the raid to Ethic Monster. Yeah. Toodles Muffin. Oh, I didn't expect that number. Oh, I'm so surprised. What? Whoa. I have my viewer count uh hidden, so I never know how much people is here. Ooh. Well, thanks for hanging out with me while I'm doing art. I'm not really. I mean, when I'm hyper focusing on doing art, I'm not really exactly doing or saying much, I would say, but still appreciate you guys being here. It's nice coming back to do art again. Alright, I'm gonna rate now, so take care everyone, and Kobo loves y'all. Bye bye. Take care. Take care. Mwah.